It's more important than ever to keep an eye on retirement.
Hi, and welcome into Eye on Retirement, the weekly show that keeps you in the know about all things retirement. This week, we're talking about a couple that have a large farm, and they were worried about it. They wanted to make sure it stayed in their family. That's exactly why we've gathered this team of professionals today. I'm Matt Goolsby, financial advisor and founding partner of Market Advisory Group. The rest of our panel includes Joshua Sikora, CPA tax advisor with Market Tax Services. Of course, we have Gerald Eidelman from Eidelman Law Firm, estate planning attorney, and of course, you're the founder of Eidelman Law Firm. Corey Hebert, health insurance advisor from Market Medicare Advisors. Welcome in, everyone. Well, now that I want to get us all together here and talk about this couple we've all been actually had interactions with and met with, to keep their identity protected, we're going to call them Karen and Pete. So they were a referral from one of our existing clients, and the first step they had is this 15-minute introductory phone call. Just got a brief idea what was going on in their situation, and they asked me some important questions to them. I believe it was fees was their top chief concern right out of the gate. But we took a look at where they're at in life right now, and they mentioned that they have hundreds of acres of farmland. And that was kind of my first cue of like, okay, well, is there an estate plan there? And they said they had one from a very long time ago, 35 years. But you and I both know, Gerald, this is a big risk having that much of an asset out there and have to have it go through probate, because the average probate expense, according to you guys, what you tell me is anywhere from 3 to 6% of the asset.
Correct.
So if this land, let's just say it's $1 million for easy math, that would have been a $30,000 to $60,000 expense to them, and I knew it was there, but I couldn't address it, right? I'm the financial advisor, you're the attorney.
Right, and what's important to notice that not only do they own the land, is they wanted to keep that land in the family, or most of it anyway.
The homestead, I think.
The homestead, part. Yeah, the 100 acres homestead. They wanted to make sure that it lasted at least as long as it was legally possible and would remain in the family as long as legally possible. And they had 3 kids, but the 3 kids were not really
all of them were
interested in
working the
more
farm.
farming or anything like that, and that's normal.
Yeah.
They have moved on. They moved on to different places. They had different professions. So there was some concern that they would not keep the farm running. So what we wanted to do is we wanted to set up, they had a estate plan, but it was just a will. There was no clear planning. And the problem is that with a will, you can't protect the farm.
Yeah.
The farm would have just gone out, and the 3 kids would have split it. And they may or may not have, depending on their affinity to keep their parents' wishes, sold the property.
True.
And so we needed to ensure that their wishes was carried out. And the only way to do that is through a trust.
And so even in this trust, it's going to say that they can sell off different parts of this land, but again, the original homestead, he wants to remain in the family and pass down through generations. And I think that's awesome. I think it's a great
Oh,
deal.
yeah. I mean, we have other clients in the same boat. I mean, they want it's meaningful because it's been their family for so long. I mean, the laws are not especially designed to, perpetually pass on land. But, a lot of people want to keep them in the family as long as possible. And part of the problem is the next generation doesn't want the land. They want the cash.
Or maybe the next generation's spouse doesn't want the
Oh,
land.
yeah. I always talk about the people who talk in your ear.
Yes.
And the problem is that your child might be, oh, yeah, Dad, I want to do this, do that. But they have another person talking in their ear saying, we need the money now. Let's get this thing out of the way.
And this is exactly why we wanted, when we started down this road of retirement planning all under one roof, we didn't want to have to refer this person to someone else and say, oh, well, I'm not an estate planning attorney. I can't help you with that. But I send a lot of people to this person, so go see them. I have so many issues with that, because does your advisor go with you into that appointment? You and I had a conversation before you even met with this couple.
That's right.
You started working on their situation before you even got a chance to meet with them. And we don't want to have to refer people out to someone that we're not going to be in the situation, helping them explain the intricate details of what's going on. And if you want to start this process, all you have to do is schedule a 15-minute introductory phone call with us. So to set up that 15-minute phone call, visit retirementhelp.com. That's our new website out there. Or you can call us at 833-44-CORE4. That's 833-442-6734. Or again, check out that website, retirementhelp.com. We built that as an educational resource to help you better in retirement. Well, stay tuned. In the next segment of Eye on Retirement, we'll continue down this road about Pete and Karen's story, but we want to get into their health care. Stay tuned. You won't want. Welcome back into Eye on Retirement. In the last segment, we were talking about a couple I've recently met with. We're going to call them Karen and Pete to protect their identity. But there are a couple that are trying to dial in their retirement plan before they take that dive. They're within about the next year to two, they're going to be retiring. Now, I want to continue their story with an interesting exchange that happened in our first 15-minute introductory call with them. We turned to talking about healthcare. And Pete, Karen's husband, he was concerned about Medicare. And Karen, she's working and he's on her healthcare, but he's turning 65 in the fall this upcoming fall season. And he was worried he'll be penalized if he doesn't sign up for it. So let's go over to Corey. I mean, I think I know this answer, but things change, laws change. Corey, what was going on here?
Well, Matt, as you're well aware, everything with Medicare is very clearly spelled out on the government websites and the commercials and radio shows that we hear.
Clear as mud.
But to make this a little bit more neat for us, Karen is a little bit younger, so she was not quite Medicare age, and her husband was coming up on Medicare. And we hear it all the time. We hear it from our friends, from our family, from the strangers with gray hair that live down the street, that as soon as you turn 65, you have to get signed up for Medicare. And that is absolutely not the case. And a lot of times anymore, it's not the right answer for people as soon as they do turn 65. Karen is fortunate in the current position that she's at to have excellent health care coverage. They're not paying a very high premium for it, and it's providing them everything that they need. So naturally, we want to stay on this as long as we possibly can.
Well, and as a financial advisor, I've heard enough in continuing education classes, I've heard enough in certain circles, I knew that, but I didn't want to do them a disservice. They're in here getting their Core 4 report done. I knew that they probably still need to have a conversation because Pete, again, he turned 65 this fall. So he had a bunch of questions, even past should he just file for Medicare. He wanted to know what Medicare might look like when Karen retires or when Karen's coverage from her insurance phases out, because they'll cover her till age 65. It's a really neat kind of plan out there. We know what company does that. But with people that retire from this company, they can keep their health insurance on, but Pete might need to go on Medicare at that point.
Yeah, so we have a couple different things here, and what we're starting to talk about, Matt, is the concept of creditable coverage. Mm-hmm. Creditable coverage means that the insurance coverage is equal to or greater than what Medicare is willing to provide. And one of the fundamental things about creditable coverage is it's through either you or your spouse's active employment. So whenever Karen, if she does end up retiring before the age of 65 and keeping her health insurance through work, that's going to be okay coverage for her, but Pete's coverage is no longer going to be considered creditable. So once Karen transitions from active employment to that retiree coverage, it's going to be mandatory, not mandatory, but highly encouraged that Pete does make that move over to Medicare, as to avoid any late enrollment penalties that he may face.
And you guys will assess that as you get closer to that. That's what you work with the couples through the transition where they're going off their company insurance or their group plan and they're going on to Medicare. It's a different animal. And Pete was just fortunate enough that he could be on her health care.
Yeah, absolutely. And this was a great situation for Pete to be able to stay on Karen's health care as long as he possibly can. And we here at Market Medicare, we actively realize that sometimes Medicare is not going to be the right answer for somebody when we have other options. Now, for Pete's case, there were some things immediately that we could do. For example, because he was not contributing to a health savings account, it did make the most sense that when he turned 65, we sign him up for Medicare Part A only. and defer Medicare Part B.
Why would you sign someone up for Part A if they still have coverage under their work? I think I know the answer, but tell our audience, because there is some benefits there in your opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. So Medicare Part A, while you have another form of primary insurance, is most likely not going to be used to pay any bills in that healthcare setting. But there are some blue moon scenarios where, extra healthcare coverage is never a bad thing. But in addition to that, there is going to come a day where Pete needs Medicare Part B. And already being in the Medicare system with Medicare Part A is going to make adding Medicare Part B on later a much easier process if we already have that Part A coverage.
So as long as it's not going to harm the situation, which, like you said, health savings accounts are a factor. Sometimes there's other factors as well, but as long as it's not going to hurt someone, it can be beneficial to already be in the system, have that Medicare number, so that when the day comes, you're not covered by the other insurance, or if there's a sudden change, maybe the spouse, the spouse gets their coverage till age 65, regardless if they retire early or not. But say the spouse doesn't have that benefit. Say they got fired and it's going to lose that group coverage. It would be great for Pete to already have his Medicare A, because you could get him covered that much faster.
Right, and Matt, we get this all the time, that we have that surprise layoff, or maybe somebody just gets fed up with their boss and it's
one bad day.
Time to retire, and then they come in and they say, all right, today is the 28th. 3 days from now, I would like to go ahead and be transitioned over to Medicare. Let's make that happen.
That's a big lift.
Which is great. I can explain Medicare in less than 3 days. I can know exactly what plans we want them to go with, and I can have all sorts of paperwork ready. But the other factor here that I can't control is that we still need Social Security to process this application, to snail mail that new Medicare card over to them. And those things, if we're banking on that in 3 days, we might be severely disappointed.
Best to plan ahead is what I'm hearing.
Absolutely, and that's one of the ways that, compared to some other Medicare shops, some things that we do is we set good timelines for our clients, and that is one of the most stressful things about Medicare. It's not picking out the perfect plan, knowing the ins and outs. We definitely help out with that, but the way that we see the stress leave our clients is whenever we set that clear timeline for when we want to do what part of that Medicare step.
Are there tax penalties on over-contributing to an HSA? I want us to go back around to that. I think there are, aren't there? There's some. You guys are kind of grinning. Are we getting another tax in Medicare?
It is a connection, and it's unfortunate because a lot of times people don't know about it till after the year's done, and then it gets discovered when they're filing their taxes, and there's 6% surtaxes that come into play, which sounds gross, right? And it's cumulative, so it builds up year over year over year, and it's tough to unwind just because it's something people don't normally do. So there are those penalties, and people need to be aware, which Corey helps them with all the time. They have that conversation about Medicare. I know he always brings up HSAs because he grabs me sometimes and we talk about it together.
So is it your tax person's responsibility to make sure you're telling your clients and I'm being facetious, of course, telling your clients every year that, hey, you got to watch out for this when you enroll in Medicare? Or is it their Medicare person? Maybe they don't have a Medicare person. These are just one of these areas where, again, there's that blind spot that can hit people in retirement, and it can be a big can of worms.
You're absolutely right. It sure can, and that's why we work together as a team to help people uncover these areas that is technically their responsibility unless they get help from a coordinated team of professionals.
And we talk about it on the radio show. I think the retirement system in America is broken in a way because you have the financial advisor. That's the one that's normally meeting with people the most, but they don't have these other people that they can loop in, and it just gives so many blind spots.
Yeah, in conversations with my peers and other tax firms, I talk to my clients way more than they do because you bring me in all the time and we talk about things that are going on in people's situations. We have that annual tax planning conversation. Corey brings me in sometimes when they're talking about Medicare. It's just a coordinated approach that ends up benefiting the client so much more.
And can you imagine how hard that is? And maybe people out there watching can't imagine how hard it is because they're having to do it. And that's why we've invented this Core 4 report process. Pete, he was fortunate that, again, he could stay on Karen's health insurance, but not everyone's so lucky. And if you can't just assume that your coverage is going to be credible coverage, you should know for a fact. And sometimes all it takes to find out is scheduling that 15-minute introductory call with one of our advisors. To set up that call, visit retirementhelp.com. It's a new website that we're rolling out with some educational features. Or if you don't want to go to the website, you can pick up the phone and call 833-44-CORE4. That's 833-442-6734. Or again, check out that website, retirementhelp.com. There you can watch past episodes or submit a question for us to use on the show in the future. Well, in the next segment of Eye on Retirement, we'll finish off with Karen and Pete's story about more on their taxes and some on their estate plan. Stay tuned. Hi, and welcome back into Eye on Retirement. In the show so far, we've covered Karen and Pete's estate plan and their health care. Now it's time to turn to, again, the taxes. We're starting a little bit about that down that road, but Karen, she's the professional here. She's on the corporate front, and she said she doesn't know all the ins and outs of individual taxes, but fortunately, working with us, she doesn't have to. I just say taxes 3 times and you show up like Beetlejuice.
Yeah, something like that.
So what's going on in Karen's taxes? And I want to get back to Gerald with one more question here before we're out.
Yeah, so as part of this Core 4 report process, we always ask clients or people who would like to work with us to send us a bunch of documents. And it's very obvious Karen's been in a corporate environment because everything that we asked for just punched out was delivered to us.
She was on her game with the details. She could roll that out to you.
Sure was. So she gave us all these statements showing what kind of accounts the funds were in for retirement, as well as a copy of the tax return. And the tax return is so important because it tells us what's going on more than just the number, because these numbers have meaning and nuance to them. And so we need to know how things are kind of laid out in more detail than just sometimes people can present conversationally. And so as we started to explore their situation, a lot of their funds, like a lot of people we meet with, were in pre-tax retirement accounts, which is absolutely fine. I mean, those retirement accounts are a very easy way to contribute to your retirement.
That's the 401ks and IRAs. Whenever we say pre-tax, I don't know if people know what that means.
Yeah, of course.
But that pre-tax was again, the bulk of their savings.
That's right. So most of their funds were in those accounts that have never seen taxes addressed. They had some that were in post-tax, like Roth 401k type accounts. And so with how those are laid out, that sets the stage for how they're going to move into retirement. And it identifies places where changes might need to be made to their situation to give them the flexibility they really want in retirement. And so we kind of start to sketch out what their tax situation is going to look like. You know, when they hit 73, 75, depending on their exact age now, what kind of required distributions are they going to have? Are they okay with, do they need to take that much money out, like for cash flow purposes? Or is that a little bit excessive? In their situation, they were a little surprised by how much they were going to have to start taking out of those retirement accounts. We really haven't talked about it too much, but Pete had a state sponsored retirement plan or pension, which means that those pension dollars were going to come to him free of state tax. That created some additional options that were very unique to their situation because they can turn that on for cash flow if they want.
So people that participate in thrift savings plan or in Kansas as well, the Kansas one is Capers, Kansas Public. If they have those kinds of accounts, then they don't have to pay the Kansas state taxes, income taxes on that money for a Roth conversion. Makes it cheaper.
If they choose to take a lump sum distribution, right. And so that just adds another nuance to their situation that needs to be accounted for and then presented back to them as an alternative option. You know, do you take it as the cash flow option? Do you take it as the lump sum for preparing for a Roth conversion? And so we start to sketch these different pieces out so that they understand what the retirement landscape looks like. It's not just a foregone conclusion that they're going to do this and then this and then this and then this. They've got a variety of options. And some of those options start to interplay, like in the last segment, how we were talking to Corey about Pete signing up for Medicare. It could impact the HSA situation if there was one in play. These things start to interact in ways that can be unpredictable from the point of someone standing on that first step of moving into retirement.
A lot of moving parts is what I hear.
There is a lot of moving parts, and that's why we have a ongoing tax conversation with our financial advising clients, so that every year we sit down and we talk about what should be done, what opportunities exist in this calendar year.
Question for you real quick before we get out of here. Does that make you shake, or does that me bake? You shake and bake?
I'll take the shake.
Real quick before we go, Gerald, what is the timeline that you really look for getting this estate plans out? I mean, I know you've met with people in the hospitals, but realistically speaking, I wanted to get that in earlier. I want to circle back to that.
Sure.
This isn't an overnight process.
No, it takes at least 3 to 6 months to get your estate plan in order and set it up to sign up. And so you want to give yourself plenty of time. They are the right page to start doing their planning. And we went ahead and began that process, and we will complete it pretty shortly.
I mean, sometimes you've been, again, emergency plans, but
yes,
ideally to get it done right, retitle the assets, sometimes real estate, all those things.
That's correct.
That's why it takes the longer process. It's not you taking so long
Right,
on the documents.
right, correct.
Because you got to retitle the deeds and sometimes change property, title of property, because you might want it in the trust, especially that's how
Right,
you
you
protect that
don't. You
homestead.
want it in a trust. In this case, we wouldn't have done that.
And so that's what takes the
we
3 to
wouldn't
6
have.
months. I don't want people to freak out and think, oh my gosh, they're going to take 3 to 6 months to get my estate plan done?
Understandable, but also Gerald's very busy. I mean,
that's
he's got lots of people he's meeting with.
That's fair. And Corey Hebert, appreciate you. And what's your kind of tip for people approaching Medicare, real quick?
Yeah, we get this all the time, but it's never extremely far too early to start planning. If you're 63, asking about Medicare today, that might not be the same Medicare that's there for when you're 65. But about that 64, that's when we really want to start taking a closer look at Medicare.
Well, when you have a journey ahead of you, it can feel scarier when you're going it alone. When all these tough decisions come down to only you, and that, you know what, it doesn't have to be that way. It can feel less scary when you have a whole retirement team on your side. And you know what, if you'd like to figure out what it feels like to feel less alone when it comes time for your retirement planning, give us a call and schedule your 15-minute introductory call. We'd love to chat with you by phone to see if we're the right fit for you or if we can help you with what's going on in your situation. And so to reach out and schedule that call, you can dial 833-44-CORE4, or you can go over to our website at retirementhelp.com. It's a great website we built. You can search for ionretirement.com as well. You can search for Ion Retirement on YouTube, where we upload all past episodes for you to watch on demand. That's all the time we have for this episode this week. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Matt Goolsby, along with the entire panel, to remind you that we're here to keep an eye on retirement.
Investment advisory services are duly offered through Foundations Investment Advisors LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor, and Market Investment Group LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. The investment advisor representatives of Market are also affiliated with and registered through Foundations Investment Advisors LLC, and may provide services on behalf of both firms to client or prospective clients where properly licensed or exempt. This show is presented by Market Investment Group LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor that only conducts business in jurisdictions where it is properly registered or is excluded or exempted from registration requirements. Registration as an investment advisor is not an endorsement of the firm by securities regulators and does not mean that the advisor has achieved a specific level of skill or ability. The firm is not engaged in the practice of law or accounting. The information presented is believed to be current. It should not be viewed as personalized investment advice. All expressions of opinion reflect the judgment of the presenter on the date of the show's publication and are subject to change. The information presented is not an offer to buy or sell, or a solicitation of any offer to buy or sell any of the securities discussed. You should consult with a professional advisor before implementing any of the strategies discussed. Any legal or tax information provided in this show is general in nature. Always consult an attorney or tax professional regarding your specific legal or tax situation. Annuity and life insurance guarantees are subject to the claims paying ability of the issuing insurance company. If you withdraw money from or surrender your contract within a certain time after investing, the insurance company may assess a surrender charge. Withdrawals may be subject to tax penalties and income taxes. Persons selling annuities and other insurance products receive compensation for these transactions. These commissions are separate and distinct from fees charged for advisory services. Insurance products also contain additional fees and expenses. Social Security rules and regulations are subject to change at any time. Always consult with your local Social Security office before acting upon any information provided herein. A Roth conversion may not be suitable for your situation. The primary goal in converting retirement assets into a Roth IRA is to reduce the future tax liability on the distributions you take in retirement or on the distributions of your beneficiaries. The information provided is to help you determine whether or not a Roth IRA conversion may be appropriate for your particular circumstances. Please review your retirement savings, tax, and legacy planning strategies with your legal/tax advisor to be sure a Roth IRA conversion fits into your planning strategies. This is not endorsed by the U.S. government or associated with any federal Medicare program. We do not offer every plan available in your area. Any information we provide is limited to those plans we do offer in your area. Please contact Medicare.gov or 1-800-Medicare to get information on all your options. All client or prospective client names have been changed to protect the identities of the individuals discussed. All rights reserved.